Forget the Megalodon for a moment. Long before this famous shark ruled the waves, the ancient oceans were home to monsters far more bizarre and terrifying. Imagine a squid with a sharp shell as long as a two-story building. This predator dominated the water 470 million years ago today. Or consider a sea scorpion larger than a human, ready to tear apart anything in its path. Why was prehistoric Earth so obsessed with magnifying everything? This phenomenon is known as Marine Gigantism. It was a time when the rules of biology pushed life to reach massive, almost impossible physical proportions. Unlike the gigantism seen in the cold waters of Antarctica today, these ancient giants grew large for a reason much more brutal than simple temperature control. They were participants in a never-ending survival race. In the prehistoric deep, size was the ultimate weapon and the most effective shield against certain death. Let us travel back millions of years. As we move through time, small organisms transform into massive silhouettes that block out the sun's rays. The transformation was driven by environmental factors and biological necessity. Every inch gained in length was a step further away from being a meal. This was the era of giants, where the ocean's ecosystem was designed to support massive bodies and even more massive appetites for millions of years. To understand these creatures, we must look at the world they lived in. It was a world of abundance, competition, and extreme evolutionary experimentation. Was it the high oxygen levels, or was the ancient ocean simply a free buffet? Scientists have debated these questions for decades without a final answer. If these monsters were to return today, would our modern apex predators, like the great white or killer whale, even stand a chance of surviving? Imagine a mosasaur swimming alongside a modern aircraft carrier. The sheer scale is difficult to comprehend, dwarfing almost everything we see in our oceans. The mystery of their size lies in the delicate balance of their environment. Every factor, from water temperature to food supply, played a crucial role. Let us examine the evolution of their weapons. First, meet the Endoceras, a living arrow that mastered the art of defensive and offensive size. It didn't need to be fast. It just needed to be big enough so that no predator could fit that steel-hard shell into their hungry mouths. In an ocean of teeth, being a giant armored spear was a winning strategy. This was the first great success of the Marine Gigantism era. But as armor evolved, so did the tools to break it. The ocean was about to become an even more dangerous place for the slow. When shells were no longer enough, evolution equipped the eurypterids with claws. These sea scorpions were the ultimate hunters of the Silurian seafloor. With claws longer than a man's arm, they were active hunters. They didn't just wait for food, they chased it down and tore it apart. They represented a shift from passive defense to active aggression. In the ancient world, if you weren't growing bigger, you were definitely being eaten. Then came the Dunkleosteus, the armored tank of the Devonian period. This was the peak of biological madness, a fish that defied all standard designs. It had no teeth. Instead, it possessed sharp, bony plates that acted like guillotines, capable of crushing through any armor or bone with ease. Its bite was one of the most powerful in history. One snap could generate enough force to pulverize the toughest prehistoric shields ever developed. It was an apex predator that feared nothing. For millions of years, the Dunkleosteus was the undisputed king of the prehistoric killing fields. You might think of turtles as slow and gentle, but meet the Archelon, the largest turtle in history, a beast of truly massive proportions. With a flipper span of over 4 meters, It didn't grow big to be friendly. It grew to become a floating fortress in dangerous waters. It lived in a sea full of hungry mosasaurs. To survive such an environment, the Archelon had to be a mobile island of sheer resilience. In this world, being big was your only insurance policy. The Archelon was a testament to how far life would go to stay alive. But even the greatest fortresses had their limits. The evolutionary arms race was constantly pushing every species to find a new, bigger advantage. The secret to this gigantism wasn't just oxygen, it was environmental stability. Prehistoric oceans remained shallow and warm for millions of years at a time. This allowed species the time to slowly increase their size across generations. It was a loop. Predator grows bigger, so the prey must grow too. Then the predator grows even more to crack the new defense. This cycle repeated for eons, creating the titans we find in the fossil records. When the environment provides enough energy and time, nature doesn't know when to stop. It keeps building bigger and better versions of life. However, the true winner of this size race isn't a monster from the past. It is a creature that lives right now, in our time. Meet the blue whale. It is larger than any dinosaur or sea monster that ever lived. It is the undisputed heavyweight champion of history. But unlike the monsters of old, the blue whale doesn't use its size to fight. It uses its massive mouth to filter tiny krill. When you overlay a mosasaur on a blue whale, the fierce predator looks small. Our modern world holds a giant that dwarfs the ancient nightmares. It is a peaceful giant, born from a different kind of evolution. Size can be for defense, for hunting, or simply for efficient energy consumption. Gigantism is a gift during stable times, but it becomes a curse when the world changes. As temperatures shift, the giants are the first to suffer. Today's giants are shrinking due to rapid climate change. The resources needed to maintain such massive bodies are becoming harder to find in our seas. If you want to know why these legends are disappearing, join us for our next video on the tragic decline of the world's great giants. The story of the ocean is one of constant change. From armored fish to filter-feeding whales, size has always been the ultimate mystery. Thank you for exploring the prehistoric deep with us. Don't forget to subscribe and dive deeper into the history of our incredible planet Earth. Which of these prehistoric monsters fascinated you the most? The armored fish, the giant turtle, or the spear-headed squid of the ancient seas? Every creature tells a story of survival. Let's look closer at the biology of the Endoceras and how it maintained its massive weight underwater. By filling chambers in its shell with gas, it could hover weightlessly. This engineering marvel allowed a 10-meter creature to move with minimal energy. It was the first master of the water column. Its size was not a burden, but a massive advantage in the race for territory. Even the mightiest had moments of weakness. Molting was a dangerous time for the giant sea scorpions as they grew into their larger bodies. Once their new armor hardened, they were once again the terrors of the seafloor. Growth was a painful but necessary path to absolute dominance. The Dunkleosteus didn't need to hunt constantly. Its size allowed it to store massive amounts of energy, surviving between large, successful kills. It could open its mouth in just 1/50th of a second, creating a vacuum that sucked prey into its lethal, plate-lined jaws instantly. This was the ultimate fusion of defense and offense. A biological machine designed to survive the harshest conditions the Devonian period could offer. The Archelon's shell was not solid bone like modern turtles. It was a leathery frame, reducing weight while still providing incredible structural support. Its beak could crush jellyfish and hard-shelled mollusks alike. The archelon was a generalist, eating whatever the ocean provided in its vast size. The mosasaurs were the latecomers to the game, but they quickly became the most terrifying. They were the ultimate evolution of the sea lizard. Equipped with a forked tongue and incredible sight, they could track prey across miles of open ocean, leaving nowhere for others to hide. Competition between these giants was fierce. Only the largest and most aggressive could hold the best hunting grounds in the prehistoric seas. Geography also played a role. Shallow seas provided more nutrients and space for these massive animals to breed and grow without limits. Without a massive foundation of food at the bottom of the chain, the giants at the top could never have existed for so long. Even the smaller giants, like the ammonites, were vital. They provided a consistent food source for the larger predators in the evolutionary race. The ocean was a theater of size and light. At night, the true scale of these creatures became even more ghostly and impressive. Being big also meant better protection for the next generation. A giant mother could defend its offspring against almost any threat in the sea. Every part of their body was tuned for efficiency. Size did not mean being slow, it meant having more muscle for explosive, deadly speed. Down in the depths, the giants were safe from the chaos of the surface. The deep ocean was a sanctuary of size and silence. As time passed, new giants appeared. The Basilosaurus was one of the first whales to reach massive sizes, though it looked like a serpent. It was a vicious hunter, using its size to dominate the Eocene oceans. The transition from reptile to mammal didn't stop the gigantism. It was a bridge between the old world and the new. Evolution was experimenting with mammal bodies to see how large they could go. Social hunting also benefited from size. A group of giants could control massive schools of fish, ensuring everyone in the group stayed fed. Every drop of the ancient sea was part of a grand design, a design where bigger was almost always better for millions of years. But geological shifts eventually ended the era of many giants. When the shallow seas disappeared, the giants lost their homes and food. Where whales once swam, now there are only bones in the sand. This is the ultimate fate of many giants who couldn't adapt quickly. Even in death, a giant provides for the ocean. A single fallen titan can feed an entire ecosystem for decades in the deep. This cycle of life and death is what kept the ancient oceans so vibrant. The giants were the batteries of the entire marine ecosystem. Coming back to the present, the blue whale reminds us that the era of giants isn't over. We are living with the greatest of them. The survival of these modern titans depends on us. They have survived for millions of years, but now they face their greatest challenge. Unlike the natural shifts of the past, the current changes are fast. The giants of today have less time to adapt to a changing world. Scientists are working hard to understand how these giants survive. Every piece of data helps us protect the last of the world's titans. The ocean remains a place of wonder. It is a world where size is a testament to the power and creativity of natural evolution. Think back to the orthocone, the Dunkleosteus, and the mosasaur. They paved the way for the giants we see in our oceans today. Each fossil is a piece of a giant puzzle, a puzzle that tells us why our world looks the way it does after millions of years. Even the land felt the influence of the sea's giants. The boundaries between water and shore were often crossed by these massive life forms. The scale of their bodies is humbling. It reminds us that we are just a small part of a very long and very large history. As the world changes, the strategy of being small and fast often wins. But the allure of the giant will always remain in our minds. Will the giants ever return to their former glory? If the environment stabilizes again, nature might once more start the race for size. The story of the giants is the story of Earth itself. It is a tale of ambition, survival, and the endless quest for dominance. We don't need monsters to be amazed. The giants that remain are enough to remind us of the ocean's incredible, untamed power today. It is a sight that hasn't changed in millions of years. The grace of a giant is one of the most beautiful things on Earth. Listen to the voice of the deep. It carries the history of every monster and every titan that has ever called the ocean home. No matter where you look, the legacy of the giants is everywhere. In the rocks, in the DNA, and in the very salt of the water. We are still discovering new giants every year. The prehistoric oceans are far from giving up all their secrets to us just yet. The mechanics of their movement were a masterclass in physics. To move such bulk through water required incredible power and specialized biological engineering. They lived hard lives in a world of giants. Every scar tells a story of a narrow escape or a hard-won victory in the depths. To support a giant body, you need a giant heart. The internal organs of these creatures are as impressive as their external armor and teeth. Standing under their skeletons, you can truly feel your own size. They remind us that for much of history, humans would have been just snacks. The ancient world was a place of high drama and high stakes. Size was the currency of power in this vast, underwater empire of old. Even the most terrifying giants had a place in the community. They were the anchors of their world, supporting countless smaller species around them. Time is the ultimate predator. No matter how big you are, the changing world will eventually find a way to test your limits and survival. Protecting the giants of today is our responsibility. They are the living links to a prehistoric past that we are only beginning to understand. As we close this chapter on the giants, remember that the ocean still hides many mysteries. Some giants may still be waiting to be found. Explore the world around you. The history of the giants is written in the earth beneath your feet and the waves on the horizon. From the armored fish to the king of the modern sea, the journey of the giant is one of the most incredible stories ever told. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please leave a like and tell us which giant you'd most want to see in person if you could. Next time, we'll look at why the giants left the water and how they conquered the land. You won't want to miss that epic transition. Until next time, keep looking deeper. The world is full of giants, both past and present, waiting for you to discover their amazing stories.